Hello and welcome to this episode of Active Mwananchi. My name is Issa Thuo. I'm a campus staff here at Focus Kenya and also the person in charge of digital ministry. I'm joined by my co-host today.
Yeah, my name is Diana Waruguru Maina and I work at Focus as Social Action Coordinator. We are glad to have you.
Yeah, and today we are having a conversation with Mr. Vincent Kimosop.
Yes.
Vincent is the secretary to the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum. He also works as a consultant at Sovereign Insight, consulting on issues of governance and strategy for organizations. You can tell us more about what you do, Vincent.
Yes, great to be part of this. As you've rightly said, but mainly what we do is to help organizations get it right in terms of matters of their strategy.
Yeah.
We also help them to sharpen their edge if they have gotten their strategy right. It is something that is progressively being done. And we do that by ensuring that they have good strategies and good people. So when the strategies are bad, we sort it out. But also you know very well that a good strategy is as good as the people implementing. So we also sort out the people by training, coaching, and also mentorship.
Okay. And that's governance.
Yes.
Strategy. Is there a difference between governance and politics?
Governance. When we talk about governance, because we want to make this discussion relatable, if you look at the traditional African stool, the reason why that stool stands is because it has 3 legs. So governance is, the objective of it was to have a place to sit on. Now, the place to sit on, together with the 3 seats and the usage, which is a comfortable place to sit, is what constitutes governance. So you can scale this up from a family perspective, how you manage your affairs to make the system tick. That is your governance. The mother will do this, the father will do this, the children will do it. When everybody does their part and the system works, that is governance. So you can now take it to the community level, take it to the government level. In summary, pictorially, that is how I would summarize governance. How you mediate your problems, how you allocate your responsibilities, how you distribute resources, how you actually provide sanctions, how you also reward those who are doing right. All that brought together is what governance is. Now, politics is part of, politics is part of governance in the sense that politics is basically this. It is the distribution, competition for distribution of resources. Who gets what, where, and how, and including when. That is politics. So when you're hearing all this conversation nationally, oh, this position and all that, it is the competition for resources. And that's why you are told, my brother, in politics, that there are no permanent friends and no permanent enemies. What you have are permanent interests. And when interests align, you were wondering, the guys who used to say terrible things yesterday about each other, what happens today? They are comrades, they are saying my brother or even my sister, now that we have to be inclusive. That is now politics. So where governance, where the two merge is that politics is an art where the person who has authoritative allocation of resources is therefore the people who are playing the game. But remember now, they cannot do it in a vacuum. They do it in a community, they do it in a society, they do it in a family. So where politics now come in is when you see who is allocating what, how are they competing. Even in family, there is politics. Who is bought for a shoe today, who is bought for, it says, I'm trying to keep it as basic as possible because we normally cloud politics and governance. So why at times we think the system is not working is because the people who are muddying the water in terms of, I did not get, like if you're competing for water and it says, I did not get the clean water. What do? I take a stone and I throw so that we all become, no one gets the clean. So that is usually why you see our politics seem to be murky. But you go beyond the murkiness, you see the competition for distribution of resources.
And where does power come in?
Power is, so I train on this. There's something I do called the policy matrix. So if you draw a quadrant where you have policy, process, and power in politics, that is where you now see the whole shape. So policy is your intention. And when you say government's intention to do anything or an issue, that is where policy is. So to say we will do this, whether written or unwritten, that in itself is policy. Then when you come to process is how you arrive at what you decided upon. We will consult people, we will do a survey, we will get research, we will meet together, go to parliament. That is process. And there are two processes. There is policy on the executive dimension, and there is process. In the legislative dimension. There are two different ones. I'm sure maybe in future we can have the discussion, you understand, so that I don't miss my conversation around the grid. Then you have power, and then politics. Remember, I've defined for you politics. So let me go to her to explain to her about power. Power is the ability to do things and to get things done, whether through people or you use them. Anyone who is able to get things going is somebody who is in power. And then you can be in office without being in power. Or you can be in power without being in office.
So it is not one and the same thing.
The one of politics and power? Oh yes, it's hard to separate them, but since we are doing a civic education exercise, it's possible to explain where this competition of allocation of resources, the person who is able to get the allocation or ensure resources go are the people who are in power. And power is exercised differently. You can exercise power through, there are people who exercise power through violence. So that is how you get your people to shape. So there are guys who understand how to play the game, deploy these tools at different levels.
Every time you get into a matatu,
yes,
or you are in the marketplace,
yeah,
with mama mboga, nakukatia mboga.
Yes.
Or we are sitting in our office, we have something called lunch club. Politics always comes up.
Yes.
It's the most natural thing besides the weather.
Yeah.
Politics is the next thing people will go to. That means politics affects our daily lives.
As in, it does not mean how politics does affect our lives. Let me just, if you are seen with a picture of shaking hands with the president, even if you know it was not, maybe it was an accidental meeting, and Dan happens to have captured you. You're in a smart suit. You're greeting the president, and he's smiling at you. That picture, my friend, you go to different institutions. You see, I was with the president yesterday. That in itself can open opportunities. So. As in, it's the most natural thing. It's a theater where everybody has an opinion, and it does not mean that your opinion is stronger than the other. So, and it affects us. Out of politics tomorrow, we can be able to say bei ya unga inapungua kutoka 220 mpaka 90. Tell me, that is 90. That's 90. That is how much? 90. Shillings. That's 30 shillings drop, and that is across the country. That is what politics can give you. So the challenge is that at times these people don't seem to give it the seriousness it deserves, because they haven't understood. It's a knowledge gap. They haven't applied themselves to understand how the game is played and its impact on our lives, and also how to bring a godly influence into the space. So I don't necessarily blame them. It is just that, as the good book says, that my people perish because of lack of knowledge.
And I think there is something you say that is quite important, that politics is also about distribution of resources. Yes. So that is distribution of resources determines what is allocated for education. Where does money for health go to? Where does the economy, the processes of how the economy works, so that now the food you eat is determined by the politics in terms of the cost of
our
public
politics.
debt.
Our politics is control of production, distribution, and exchange. So as to who gets what, it is decided on this table. Like if I was the cabinet secretary and you're interviewing me, and towards the end I ask you, and by the way, you look like you've done a good job, what can we do? That is a whole conversation around power, because that person is in a place to do what? To make decisions. Yeah. So we should not beat around the bush. The earlier we understand that this thing influences us and affects us, the better our eyes will be open as to why we must be engaged in the politics of the land.
Yeah. So in Kenya, election years are critical.
Yeah.
And I know we've been talking about politics almost each single day since the last election.
Yeah.
But it seems like now people are realizing political parties are important. Who goes where? Who do you align with? Is it something that is good that we only think of politics this seriously when it is during the election year?
First of all, the politicians love it that way because you're talking about them. And remember, they are not the only stakeholders in the issue, but they like it that way because you are in their minds. You know, during an election period, the game changes. The people who used to sit in the seats of dividing and making decisions, they are jobless people. So though Diana and myself, we become what? We are the employers. That is why they come and cry with us. They come and dance with us. They come and sleep with us. Because at that time, they are looking for jobs. My friend, you have searched for a job. Look at the amount of money you invest in doing your CV. Even the day you're going for that job interview, you are on your best suit. And why? Because you know that which you're looking for. And after the elections are done, the problem is that the ordinary citizen reverts back to their ordinary position as the other person who is enjoying their ardent sweat. And they are now in a place of power, doing what? Distributing resources and opportunities. I needed to add that. Because I can tell you, resources at times is seen in terms of finances and people, but also opportunities. My friend, I'm doing a lot of learning in this space. There are areas that when you are part of, you know what's happening in this economy. Even in terms of where there are lines and areas where the money goes through. And be able to say, we have said, hiyo kazi ni ya dhuo. Tumesema, Diana ametosha hiyo maneno. They can decide like that. And then all these applications, interview is a charade of a decision that had already been decided. As in, anyway, I don't want to talk about myself much, but inakuanga hivyo.
Okay.
And I think it's very important once people understand the importance of politics, the power and the influence it has, that we don't retreat after the election year, but look for opportunities and opportunities to engage. And maybe you can help us see
yes,
what are those opportunities.
I'll tell you this, and I know this, this might discourage others. The truth of the matter is that we will not have a perfect government after the elections this year. We will not have a perfect government because the people we are electing are fallen people who are in need of redemption. I'm sure most of the people who are listening to us are believers who understand our language and perspective. They are fallen people. So corruption will be there in the next government. Challenges I know I should be prophesying a lot of hope and everything, but we should look and focus on the ideal, but at the same time appreciate we are in a fallen world. So the challenges we are facing will remain with us. So our pragmatic approach to moving to the election is that who in those from the MCA to the president presents a more clearer plan in addressing our problems. Unemployment will be there. Are you seeing? The issues of poverty will be there. The issues of challenges of infrastructure will be there. But now you compare those who are present and who is presenting a better alternative. So I don't know. I don't know at some point if I can be able to merge this to one of the things, is what therefore should you look for? So that we, if I can just complete, this is what we did under Hesabika when we were planning church and politics. We came up with a criterion and we summarized it into 3. What do you look for when you're choosing and you're choosing a leader? I tell people go for 3 things. 1 is look at their competence. Even for this interview, this kind of work we are doing, there is a level, Diana, there is a level so you have of competence to be able to do this job. So that is the first thing. And how do you know competence? What is it that they have done? Where have they served? Because you cannot just come from nowhere and tell us you want to run a government. We do not know what you've done in the past. So competence is important. And it's actually biblically backed. Psalm 78, 70, 72 says, and God raised David from being a shepherd. And he made him to be a shepherd of his people Israel. And now the next thing is to tell us about David, that he led them with integrity of heart and with skillful hands. What was he doing? He was in charge of a sheep. And therefore, the elevation of that skill of being a shepherd to shepherding a people, it tells you he knew that people would be injured. He knew that people would, pasture. The way all those, so protection of the people. What have they done? So capacity is very important. Number 2 is the issue of character. Let me tell you, you can go to all the positions you can think about, but if you don't have character, you will be exposed. In fact, one of the ways of knowing people, if you want to know if somebody is a man and a woman of character, Diana, we just need to give you money and power. The inside of you will come out.
It will be magnificent.
Yes, because all that was lacking was the exposure. So character. And character, what is character? Character is who you are when you are alone, naked, and in a corner, when there is no one watching. If you are a man and a woman of integrity in the dark, what happens? You will surely be a man of integrity and a woman in the light.
Yeah.
And so for me, I will say that character is important. How do you know character? Do they have a history of scandals? What are their affairs? In Focus, I was told there's a book called Ordering Your Private Wall. I really want to read that book one of these days. Get to know, as in character is important. The final thing, number 3, is the issue of compassion. The Bible says that when Jesus saw the multitude and they were like a sheep without a shepherd, he was moved with compassion. Compassion is love in action. Do they love people? Do they care about people? And it's very easy to know if somebody cares about people. What have they done for others? So if you combine those 3 C's, which we have translated them in Swahili into ni taifa la Kenya linahitaji uongozi bora, sio bora uongozi. Na ni nani kiongozi bora? Kiongozi bora ni yule mtu ana uwezo, anaweza kutekeleza kazi ambayo anataka kupigiwa kura, kama ni mbunge, member of the county assembly, woman rep, senator, member of the national assembly, governor, pamoja na kuwa rais. Yule ambaye ana uwezo, kwa sababu inaeleweka, nimewaambia ya kwamba it is very possible to know if you have certain capacity. You don't need to ask people. Just need to ask, in the community where we come from, I come from the Rift Valley, the easiest place ni wakati watu wanachagua mtu wa kuwa chairman ya Kettle Deep. The people will say, hapana, so and so, hapana, achungi ngombe yake. As in, the interview process is very, one of the challenges we have gone to school, we have complicated things for no apparent reason. And kama ni mama, watu wanajua kwamba, saa zile kuna mikutano, tunaendanga kuomba yeye hata masufuria, na yeye wanatusaidia, wakikuwa na shida, anasimama na watu. That is the whole journey of character, that's the whole journey of capacity.
Akona uwezo.
Uwezo. Ya pili ni yule mtu ambayo ni mwaminifu. For us is that it's very simple. Can I entrust you with my cows? Ule jamaa atachunga ngombe yangu ama hapana? Sorry, I'm talking about cows. Maybe you can translate it into viazi, into fish, all that depending on where you come from. As in, can this person take care of our children? If the answer is no, then you do not need to be a skyrocket scientist to be able to elect. Ya mwisho ni yule mtu ambaye ana upendo. Kama nina upendo kakangu kwa watu wetu, siwezi kwenda kuwapiganisha watu. You know all this nonsense about, oh, during the elections we hear people saying, oh, Kikuyus must move, oh, Luos must this, Luos. It's because those who are perpetrating it do not love people. Because why would I come and divide people if I love them? In fact, it disqualifies. The Bible says very clearly, and I don't want to be preachy here. I know we are in this, is it for God so loved the world? That is the number one qualification and the character of him. And leadership comes from him. He loved the world. The number two is this: while we were still sinners, we did not make any contribution on our journey of salvation. So these are the things we should be discussing, the sermons we should be preaching in churches. Very simple in ways that connect people. And by the way, we should not fear mentioning tribes, Kikuyus, Luos, because Revelation says clearly, then I saw multitude upon multitude from different tribes singing the song of Moses. So that means God wants to be worshipped in different tribes and in different shades and in different colors. So when we appreciate that quality, anyone who elevates and brings people together, therefore, that one is a person. And that conversation about, therefore, the politicians and the leaders, majority of what we have are dealers, not leaders. There is a difference between dealers and leaders. Dealers are the ones who will divide resources authoritatively and be able to say, me, I, and myself. So, and why, for example, the antennae for tribalism goes up is because of one thing. It is the shortest route towards getting it.
It's a great conversation we are having here with Mr. Kimosop, and he talked about the 3 things you need to look for in a leader, and said it's character, competence, and compassion. And in Swahili, it's uwezo, uaminifu, na upendo. We are going to continue with this conversation on the second installment of this podcast on the power of politics and the influence politics has on our lives. Look out for that video, that next episode on this podcast soon.